All right. So had some fun today. Tried some different ideas, and ultimately settled right back on the build that we saw in the last video. I will have links again in the comments for those of you who want to download the list. So I'm scrolling down. If you're just wanting to observe which cards are in the deck, see all the mana on the left. And like I said, no changes. But I did test something interesting. I tried taking mode out and putting in Phyrexian Processor. And I had this game here that I think might be fun just to watch. Ultimately, I'll explain why I did not settle on Phyrexian Processor. So I kept a hand where Tithe will fix my mana, and my opponent's playing Xenagos, God of Rebels. So I'll Z in the processor when it comes up, because it's going to come up this game. In a most amusing fashion, actually. So I just throw away Rift here because, and naturally just top deck the processor right on time. And so because I have it, I go ahead and cultivate, mana draining's cultivate rather, and then I play processor, paying 20 life, dropping down to 27, which is completely ridiculous. Thirst during his end step. For chase, don't need to play it. Got better things to do, like make 20/20 minions. My opponent is over here on the right. You can see he's like completely flabbergasted that this card exists. Alright, so during his end step, boop, 20/20 minion. And for 20, and done. And it's a 19. He's in 19, sounds like a good time to make a 20/20. Let's do that. And let's make another one. So yeah, that's 60 points of power and toughness in play. What is this turn? I don't know. Yeah, I told him, I said, I questioned why he attacked me with 2 creatures knowing I had a processor, but he said that there's no way you can beat that. So, you would think processor would be pretty good. Like I said, I'll Z in on it here, for those of you who are unfamiliar. But and the thing is, it is a good card, and it does stuff like what you just saw, but what it doesn't do is get you out of a tough spot when you're behind, and you're getting your teeth kicked in, you're losing, you drop processor. It's a really feel-bad moment. And for that reason, I ended up cutting it. I had put it in place of the moat, because it sort of like acts like a moat, and moat gets in its way. But ultimately, I would rather have the card that saves the day than have a card that while a lot of fun, is not really integral to what I'm trying to do to win the game, and is a terrible top deck if humility's out. Whereas with Moat, it's basically a 2-card combo that says creatures are worthless. You can pretty much nullify, in some cases, an entire deck with that 2-card combo. So anyway, there was a game where after I switched to Moat, I had the most savage game ever against Wizard 103 here. But unfortunately, it glitches out and I cannot replay it. But what it came down to was he had 4 or 5 pieces of equipment, various swords and other stuff, and he had it attached to Avacyn, so all his creatures were indestructible. And I got a humility down, but with the multiple swords out, he was still drawing extra cards and making me. One of them was Feast and Famine, one was Fire and Ice, one was Light and Shadow. He also had a Skull Clamp and something else. But anyway, on the turn before he was able to attack and kill me, I was able to play Moat. I had Humility in play. And then for the next few turns, he just drew and played Artifact Mana, and I drew a counterspell, and I eventually drew enough cards to where, and gained enough life off of Oloro, ticking away, that I went from single-digit life total all the way up into the 20s, and then was able to play a Necro and put the game away. It was an amazing game, and I wish I could have played it for you. I do, however, have a pretty fun one here. And this is probably what the title of the video will be about. This one is against Scooter 030. At the end, he concedes and says he's just trying to play casual, but it's quite funny. So, I leave it to you to judge. His commander is Oona, and she is this thing. Where's the key? There we go. The Millstone Fairy. I leave it to you to judge whether or not his deck seems entirely casual. But anyway, I have to mulligan. Well, I could have kept that first hand or this second hand. They're risky keeps, but they're not impossible since, especially with the second hand, I get to scry, and then if I can find land for scroll rack, I'm good, or I can remand into thirsting and throwing away the scroll rack. But I decided I'm going to mulligan because I didn't want to take that kind of like risky keep, I guess. Mulligan into no mana, and now I've got to sit on this. And my top card is Relic. I thought about keeping it because if I get a land underneath the Relic, then I can play Signet followed by Relic, Charge, and then I could get Well Down. But that's a lot of ifs, and I really just need to find land. But to get the Signet in the first place, so I ship it away. Plus, there are a few cards I could draw that could get a Well Down really fast, like Ancient Tomb, Workshop, Crypt, Vault, Soul Ring, or any of the tutors to go get those cards. So I figured it would be better to ship it, and so that's what I do. So he has a no fast start there. So I did find myself a Signet, and I drew a counterspell off my first draw. I went through the turns a little quickly. So I drew a Stoic Rebuttal on the City of Brass turn, and then drew a Signet, or excuse me, a land on the next turn where I was able to play Signet, and then drew a third land to go right with it. So I actually just curved into a Well of Lost Dreams on a mulligan to 3, which is pretty amazing. And normally I don't really like playing Urborg against the guy who's playing black to help out their mana base, but for one thing, there's no choice with this hand, and for another thing, he's already got triple black, so I'm not helping him out much. So I pay for the well, and then it's my during my upkeep, or excuse me, my draw phase, backing up during my upkeep. So I get 2 cards, and one of them's Muddle the Mixture, and the other's Enlightened Tutor. And I thought about Enlightened Tutoring because it was my upkeep, and then during my draw step I would draw and play Soul Ring, and that way on the next turn I could just start using Soul Ring into well. But because I had Muddle the Mixture, and I felt like I can Enlighten at the end of his turn, I would rather sit on, I could Enlighten at the end of his turn and get Mana Crypt, and then throw the Crypt down and then have Metalcraft for Stoic Rebuttal. I'd rather sit on Muddle the Mixture as opposed to getting the Soul Ring this turn. And that decision ends up working out very well for me because my opponent casts Factor Fiction at the end of my turn, which I'm able to counter. So then he plays Consuming Aberration, which power and toughness equal the number of cards in your opponent's graveyard. And whenever he plays a spell, he millstones me until I reveal a land. And then all of the cards that were revealed plus the land hit my graveyard. So that means it's going to get big fast. Real fast. But because I had to spend the mana, I didn't get to Enlighten Tutor at the end of his turn. Luckily, the 2 cards I draw were so good that I don't need to Enlighten Tutor anymore for Soul Ring. So I get Metalcraft up, and then he clones the Aberration. So in response to the Aberration's Millstone effect, I use my Misty Rainforest to get a Tundra. Because I know I want a Tundra in play, and I don't want to have him mill away the Tundra, or have some really bad luck, and then I have to get Hallowed Fountain and damage myself, so I might as well just go get it now. So anyway, even though it thins the deck just a little bit, it's a land that I want in play, I don't want him to hit. So he only hits a few cards. He hits Cyclonic Rift, Land Tax, and Island, so those go away. But already that creature's a 5/5, and he's got 2 of them. And then he plays Duress, which triggers both, so he mills Swords, Vindicate, Condescend into a Wasteland, followed by Mind Twist, Mystical Teachings, which is nice, into Godless Shrine. So already he's got 2 13/13s. He's played Factor Fiction, Duress, and he has a Recursion Engine. I guess this is casual. Anyway, so he bashes me for 14 because I have to counterspell his Duress, which means, of course, his creatures get bigger as well. So I'm actually dead next turn. All he has to do is cast a spell, and he's attacking for 28, and then one spell, and it's almost certain to kill me. So during my upkeep, I go ahead and Enlighten Tutor for Humility, and I draw 2, and I actually manage to not just find Humility, but I also find a moat to go with it. That's pretty cool. Plus I get a land plus a Thran Dynamo. They're 16/16s now because of the tutor and the fetch land. So with them at 16/16, if you were to play, like, say, Recoil on the Humility, I would have to pick it up and then discard a card, which would make them into 17/17s, and he could attack for lethal right now, which is insane. But instead, he tells me, good game, I was just trying to play casual. Okay. Well, at any rate, it was a good game. It was a very satisfying win after a mulligan to 3. And I do hope that you enjoyed watching the game. Super disappointed you didn't get to see this battle against Wizard. It was utterly epic. The fight lasted for so long. Like, it just went into like turns 20 or 30 or something. That was the best one. As soon as I was done, Brian was on, and he said, "Oh man, that's a YouTube game for sure." And then, it bugs out. So stupid Magic Online. But if they can't even fix Command Tower, I'm not holding my breath for them to fix the replay bug. Oh well, their lost revenue in terms of losing free advertising from replayed games. And that's all I've got. So thanks for watching, everybody, and hope you enjoyed this. We'll see you next time.